He led Rangers out of the tunnel at Ibrox many times, but never in such emotional circumstances. Gone is the sure-footedness of his playing days. Now each step taken is a hesitant one. This is the story of Fernando Ricksen, one of football's hard men. But since being diagnosed with MND or ALS, he faces a new fight, one for which there are no rules.
I can see in the phone, I said, why me, what happened? But for me it happened, and I'm still happy and living. In my head, I'm playing every day, but my body don't want anymore.
What a good footballer.
A great athlete.
Outstanding.
He was an animal.
Like crazy.
We both broke down in tears.
The disease is really unfair because you cannot do anything.
Day by day, you're going backwards.
You see physical, mental, it's going down, costing a lot of energy.
It's terrific that so many people are here.
It was back in 2013 that Ricksen appeared on a live talk show in his native Netherlands. In an emotion-charged interview, he revealed the diagnosis he just received from specialists. At the age of just 37, he was dying.
He called me afterwards and he said, "Did you see it?" Because I don't want to see it. And we both broke down in tears.
The first thing was on the television, everybody thought he's drunk. But he wasn't drunk, he was ill.
Suddenly, he's just looking like a weak man, and he was so strong. You have always that image in front of you, so it was really shocking.
It's worrying for someone who can be so fit, healthy, athletic, powerful, to be struck down that quickly is frightening.
That was quite a shock, and I must say I was watching and I got tears in my eyes.
I was emotional. It's heartbreaking.
Every day, Fernando's condition gets worse. Every day, life's simple functions become more difficult, as the disease which will eventually end his life strengthens its grip.
Motor neuron disease is a degenerative condition affecting the nervous system, particularly the nerve cells that supply our muscles. And those nerve cells allow us to move and do what we want to do. Commonly presents with painless weakness, and it's a type of creeping paralysis that often begins in one limb and spreads, and eventually will give rise to an inability to walk or talk or breathe.
The disease is really unfair because you cannot do anything. There is no medicine, and everybody can get the illness. It's really strange.
Day by day, you're going backwards, and to express yourself the way he expressed himself, it starts to get more difficult every day because to speak, to walk.
It's often a condition that most doctors and physicians dread the most of actually contracting themselves because of the loss of self-control and autonomy that losing your ability to move and breathe and talk, communicate, generates. And mixed in with that is the inability for any therapeutics, any drugs, to make any real significant impact on the condition. And as a result of that, many doctors would not wish this on their worst enemy.
It's one of the worst illness that you can be diagnosed with at this present time. And people who know Fernando personally, he has contracted an illness which is the opposite of who he actually was.
you need to listen to your body. Now I think when everybody who know me know I don't listen.
Fernando Ricksen's battling style often got him into trouble with the authorities, but he was a fan's favourite during 6 years at Rangers, the longest he stayed at any of his clubs. Back then, Rangers' team was filled with stars, a world away from his upbringing in a Dutch mining town.
When we were very little, we cannot afford for like shoes or, to play with at football. And then my father, the truck driver, he drive several extra miles so that he get extra money, so he can buy for Fernando and for me boots to play with. So I always say to him, you must remember where you're from.
I was 15 years old and we played in the same academy. He played 2 teams higher, but I also know him because he lived next door to my aunt and my uncle, and we play on the street. And every time when we quit football, Fernando was gone and something was happening in the neighborhood. And we were looking, where's Fernando? And then he came running back and he had a fight with some guys or something.
When he was a little kid, he was like a sissy, and he was not so bad boy as the Rangers remembered him. After he was 16 years and he's gonna go to his first contract with Fortuna. After that, he has changed to a big man, so as he is. But at first, and when we were little, he was I always said, a little girl.
I was a very good friend of his brother, I'm still, and when there was a fight with him, with his brother, he was the first who said, who did it? I come. So he was like a real street fighter, and also you saw it in his career. Everywhere where he was, even if he didn't play well, he gave always 110%, and that's also where he lived in his town, was the same, to survive.
It was a different kind of area where I was grown up, and maybe that's why he had his goal was to be a football player. Doesn't matter what's happening, I'll become a football player, and maybe that's his background was a little bit different than I, and we both came really far. But for him it was the way of life to become in a better life.
Mark van Bommel would later play with Ricksen in the national team, but their careers started together in the youth system at their local club, Fortuna Sittard.
He is our club legend, he is a hero, and we wanted to honor him for what he did for us and for all our fans. And we want to honor him by naming the stand after Fernando Ricksen himself.
The fans call him Fernando the Commando because he is always making the extra yard and does everything what's possible to win the game.
In fact, Fernando the Commando was so tough as a teenager that he acted as minder for a young Mark van Bommel, a player who himself in later years would add steel and grit to the midfield of Barcelona and Bayern Munich.
He was my backup. So if the opponent was attacking me, he only said like this, and then after 5 minutes, the player, Fernando said to me, okay Mark, let him go. Then I let him go, and the player he didn't attack me anymore.
If he said to Mark, go on another position, I will play on your position now for 5 minutes, and it's arranged. You can play your game normally.
And what did he do to the troublesome opponent?
I think he would kick him.
I had some couple of nights with him in a disco after we were champion with the youth team, and we had a lot of fun. And he had, of course, a different style of life, but he was a really nice guy, a very good player with a very good heart on the right place.
At 21, Ricksen won a move to Alkmaar near Amsterdam. Teammates at AZ didn't always appreciate his aggressive streak.
Normally boys from down south, if you speak to a lot of professional players come from Roda or Fortuna and they come to the city, to the western part of Holland, they struggle adapting. And Fernando was a guy which you think lived his whole life in this area. His mentality and his, come on, he came in straight away. He hadn't any problems at all. Sometimes he was a big-mouthed, you know. He was, come on, I'm not afraid of you guys.
He was an animal, you know. An animal is always fighting and so on and so on. He was a stranger, but a nice guy. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah, he could be very ignorant and very at training, for instance. You know, he dived in tackles, which you think, you know, I keep everybody fit. You know, he was I'm a winner. I always want to win. But there were some other players in the team as well, like who are the same character, and sometimes that bounces, and that happens everywhere. But especially with Fernando.
And Ricksen was developing a reputation off the pitch too.
I think he was dying at that time already. Because outside the field, yeah, there are a lot of stories. And we know something as trainers, we know, I live here in the neighborhood, so a lot of people in town tell us stories, but is it true? But after the game, on Monday, he trained very hard, so he was as a pro okay, but outside he was no pro.
Despite the off-field issues at Alkmaar, the manager at Rangers, strict disciplinarian Dick Advocaat, thought he could control Ricksen and added him to a growing Dutch colony at Ibrox. Former colleagues worried that Glasgow and Ricksen would be a dangerous cocktail.
You earn a lot of money, you go to big clubs, and if you then don't have your family around, then it can be hard.
I didn't smoke cigarettes or something, but I like to drink, and sometimes too much.
I think it was murdering him. Yeah, he got problems through the alcohol.
Rangers at that time was, I think, for players like Fernando, was a dangerous club. Yeah.
This is Rangers' new right back, Fernando Ricksen, a £3.5 million signing from Dutch side AZ Alkmaar.
He was combustible, he was whiz off on a tangent, but he was a good footballer.
Fernando Ricksen was one of the guys, you know, along with Alec Ray and Barry Ferguson and the experienced ones in the dressing room at that time, who set an example of how to train properly, how to do things properly in a game.
He's generally a real nice guy that would have done anything for you. So, but at times he was, as I say, he's a bit crazy and a pest. He was a pest.
He was hyper. He was a guy who was always doing, busy. He was running around and a great athlete, I must say.
It's time to pump up the volume in the east end of Glasgow as 60,000 football fanatics welcome the players of Celtic and Rangers.
The Fernando Ricksen story is one of extremes. The highs he enjoyed at Rangers followed a low, his abbreviated Old Firm debut.
Night before the Old Firm game, Fernando's game, he came to the room that night we were staying in. Barry and I were rooming together. He just wanted to come in and say what's up, and he said just want to know what the game's like. It was like, heard loads of stories, and we were just saying like Celtic Park, it's going to be bedlam, it's an amazing stadium and it's full. You're going to your fiercest rivals' ground, 60,000, 55,000 of them hating you. Just all those sort of stories. You've never experienced anything like this in your life. Looking back, it was probably the wrong idea, because you get fired up the wrong way, and I've probably done the wrong thing.
Just kicked off, and I looked around me, and I just seen just me and Fernando. There's a lot of space around me. I was like, I'm gonna exploit this, because I know what type of player he is. He likes to come out short, he can close, put pressure on people. But yeah, I know that I'm kind of used to that. So when he comes short, I just go over the top. And so I mix things up to kind of make him think, well, what's he going to do next?
Fernando Ricksen is being hauled off.
I was kind of shocked. It's him, and I looked at the clock. It's 21 minutes. Yeah, that means in football you have a shocker. The manager doesn't like your performance, and as a player it hurts. You know, especially if it's your first one too.
To be taken off so early in the match, it's horrible. And you have got sympathy, but to be honest, it was secondary, because we've just been beaten heavily by Celtic, humiliated with the result, and I'll go as far as saying that, because that's not something you like to have.
Dick Advocaat will have plenty to say to Fernando Ricksen at half-time.
The emotional Dick Advocaat versus the emotional Fernando Ricksen nearly collapsed in half-time with fist fighting in the dressing room. So Barry Ferguson and Arthur Newman, I think, were cooling down the wee war there.
There was all sorts going on, and Dick at the time was telling him to sit down and shut up, and there was all sorts.
I think they both did one hit and that's it, but they both missed, or it was a slight touch, so it was a draw.
I can remember him after the game, you know, he's very down, and for a couple of days because he played so bad. But I think that experience Fernando had, you know, only made him stronger.
A lot of people would have just disappeared, gone under. This isn't for me. But he didn't. He came back and really successful player for Rangers.
Teammates admired Ricksen's work ethic, both in practice and in matches. But it was obvious to them that although he worked hard, he also played hard.
Aye, you can't hide that. Listen, he wouldn't come in and hide anything. He quite happily tell you. And I keep on going back to he always wanted to be in the room, he always wanted to be making jokes and cracking jokes, doing pranks, all sorts of stuff. He wasn't slow in telling you what he'd been doing the night before and laughing about it, and a lot of things you think, I can't be real.
Naked women jumping on the trampoline in middle of the night, putting fireworks on at 3 o'clock at night, and starting, because of that, starting a fire at the neighbor's garden.
I can only say he owes me a lot of money. Because of him, the value of my house in Newton went down when he lived there. Honestly, he did fireworks in the night, parties, hitting the lamppost.
Fernando did like a jacuzzi, I must admit. Naked a lot of times, which I didn't like. But Fernando was Fernando, and occasionally you'd be in there and think, this has got a few bubbles in here. Not your regular jacuzzi bubbles, and then there'd be a few more. And before you know it, there's bubbles everywhere, and then Fernando would jump up and he's got a tub of shower gel under there and he's squeezing it in, and obviously it's just starting to go everywhere. And he just burst out there laughing.
It was a pain because nobody could then get in the jacuzzi. You were stepping over bubbles. You were going to the shower and you were coming back out, you were covered in soap again from walking through the bubbles to get back to your locker to get changed, but you wouldn't change it.
You'd be standing in the showers, you'd be washing your hair, whatever, cleaning up, think you're done, you'd turn around to rinse yourself, and you'd be rinsing yourself and the bubbles would be keeping coming, and you would turn around and Fernando's still standing beside you, just doing this to you back, so you think you're rinsing off, it's still coming. So I liked a bit of shower gel, Fernando.
He was rooming with Peter. And we went out, we had a good time. I wasn't really with Fernando that night, but we all went out, had a few drinks. I come back to the hotel and I see Peter running out the room going, help, help, help. I was like, what's the matter with you? Because Fernando's throwing chairs at the window. I went, all right, come in here. So Peter hid in my room, I had to go in and calm Fernando down.
Tearing out from a pub. We were over there, bit of team bonding, and Fernando tore past and dived into a sandpit head first. Drags himself out in that big middle pattern with the streaks in it for the 80s. Shakes his head with the sand and then takes off again and goes into a fountain. It's just absolute crazy.
When you had the days when, you know, he was hyper and he was in your face and you were more or less saying, can you beat it? Just leave me alone, I cannot be bothered. But at the same time you go away and you would say, you know what, it's brilliant that somebody who has played with all the players he's played with, represented his country the amount of times he has, and played in so many big games, you know, is still want to carry on.
I think he just loved the buzz of being a footballer, being part of Rangers, being like teammates with certain players. I think he just loved life and just wanted to be 110% at everything he done.
But he often overstepped the mark. After an Old Firm clash, Celtic's Alan Thompson had a visit from his noisy neighbour in the middle of the night.
He brought the dog. It was just him and the dog, no one else. And my wife had not long had a baby, so we had a young baby in the house. And I just remember going to the bedroom and saying, "Hey, Fernando, come on, what's happening? You slapped me today, you slapped me." I said, "Well, it was a bit of banter and I, you know, don't take it home." We waited apparently after the game in the dressing room. Outside the dressing room, nothing happened. So his only chance to get at me was that night when we got home. So he brought the dog. If he hadn't brought the dog, we could have had a bit roll around in the garden.
One of Ricksen's most outrageous and well-publicised escapades was on a Champions League trip to Athens, when he pushed Rangers chairman John McClelland into a swimming pool.
That was an amazing day, especially because we're in the sun, getting our colour, and all the people from Radio City there, and they say to me, "Go on, you're afraid to do that." I jump up, no, I come and see Mr. McLennan, the chairman, in the water. And then I do the house, and they showed he can't swim, and he like that. But I didn't know that, otherwise I would never do that. So I also got scared. I jump in and I lift him up. But when I jump in, the water was only 10 here, so it could never down.
When the chairman came up out of the water, and I think he realised that he still had his 60 grand watch on and his wallet and that was in his pocket. Yeah, but it's funny.
Now I can laugh, but we're more like, oh. But that's also Fernando. He does something, but without harm, I say. It's more like an innocent joke, but the effect sometimes is the opposite.
But when on his game at Rangers, Ricksen was unstoppable. He played his way into a star-studded Netherlands side, by now managed by the man who'd taken him to Rangers, Dick Advocaat. He won 12 caps, but it should have been more.
He did some stupid things with the training camps of the national team, and he played well, but after the game he did some stupid things with destroying hotel rooms, destroying interiors of hotel, destroying stuff on the street. So the bondscoach, the coach noticed that, he hears that, the players see that, the captain of the team sees it. They tell it to the coach. That's not a thing which can work, especially for the national team, because you're the pride of the country and you can't do things like this.
He came to the hotel and he wants to open the door, but the door didn't open. So, and he was of course a bit drunk, and he said, "What the hell?" And so he was pulling, it didn't open, and then he thought, well, he kicked the door open, and he goes in, and Ruud van Nistelrooy was sleeping there, and then he looked like, oh, I'm one level too high, so I have to go one lower. I mean, those things, but that thing of course comes to the manager, and of course that was probably his last game for the national team.
It will affect your time of playing, the way you live. And for him, you know, I think he had many more years in his career, and also I think the level he reached, you know, could have been even higher.
He had a period at Rangers, that's why he was selected also for the national team, that he was outstanding, and if he could keep that, that form, he could be one of the best at that moment.
For me, he could be at least 40, 50 times kept for the national team.
Listen, you are what you are. Some people want to change you. You can't, that's the way Fernando was. Accept it. Deal with it. He should have won a lot more caps, but he liked to get in a wee bit of mischief every now and then, and that obviously didn't help his chance of earning more caps for Holland.
Advocaat's replacement at Rangers, Alex McLeish, had another way of managing Fernando. He gave him the captain's armband.
There was a tactic in terms of the captaincy as well. It was to give Fernando more responsibility, to lead by example, to not have as many nights out, and to do it at the right times.
He got the captain, he got that leadership, he had that responsibility. It sort of calmed him down, and he picked and chose when he wanted to be the real Fernando, but he understood his responsibilities, and it was a good move by Rangers to give him the captaincy, and it sort of, he thrived off it.
I come back, the club signed me back, and Fernando was the captain, and to be fair to him, he wanted to give me it straight back, but listen, we were in a season, and we were halfway into the season, and that shows you again. He knew what the club meant to myself, but listen, I've got to show him respect. He was a captain at the start of the season. I wasn't at the club.
It was a good decision because it brought us success. It brought a brilliant level of consistency from Fernando Ricksen, and it was one of the best decisions I've made in my career as a coach and manager.
Ricksen flourished as skipper. He was joint winner of the Scottish Players Player of the Year award together with Celtic's John Hartson in 2005. The same season, Rangers pipped Celtic to the title in the final minutes of the season on what became known as Helicopter Sunday.
The build-up to it was just very optimistic, and with hope more than belief than anything else was that Helicopter Sunday.
We just had to turn up and do our job. Fernando was captain. He made sure that our jobs were what we had to do in that day.
Here's Thompson. Turned in by Sutton. Celtic have the lead.
At half-time, which was a very critical moment, Fernando kept the players' heads up and kept the chest puffed out, because there was a wee sense of players with their heads down. I could feel it. I could feel the vibes in the dressing room, and I said, look, it's 45 minutes to go, there's 45 minutes to go, and it can go this way. Motherwell could equalise. We could score a winning goal and you win the league. That's how it can swing. The second half went to script exactly as I described it at half-time.
He's got Novo on the right-hand side. In comes Novo, drives it across! And Novo is absolutely delighted with himself. Like McLeish looking for a miracle here. Well, a huge roar goes up in the stand. The Rangers stand here. Motherwell have scored against Celtic at Fir Park to make it 1 goal apiece. McDonald scored for Motherwell! Has he snatched the league from Celtic? Look at the scenes at Fir Park. McLeish is signalling here. Motherwell have scored again. McDonald again. It's Motherwell 2, Celtic 1. They haven't got one miracle, they've got two. And it looks as if Rangers are about to win a most unlikely championship. And it's all over. And Ali McLeish is swamped by his backroom staff. Fans are going mad here. Rangers are champions of Scotland for the 51st time in their history.
Just with a whistle going, it was just the emotion.
If he was hyper before the game, he was 10 times more hyper after, because of the way we won the league, the miraculousness in it, the importance of it, and he was just. I felt really happy for him because he had a really good season that season as well, and for him to lift the cup was really good for him.
Fernando Ricksen leading a bit of a help up. It's a very heavy trophy, but he'll manage it. Rangers champions for the 51st time.
You look at the emotion on him when he lifts it. the trophy. You know, it means something to the guy. Rangers has done something to the guy.
That game was amazing. So you can imagine the bus ride back to Glasgow.
It was a great day, great few days.
We only had fun laughing, party. From there, we walked on the coast from pub to the city centre.
That's probably my biggest memory, Fernando, lifting that trophy and being part of that, we coming back. And obviously, I remember him looking around at me and saying, "Here, take the trophy." But he was the captain, he had to lift the trophy.
Fernando Ricksen endures a daily battle with the symptoms of motor neuron disease. He's still in his 30s. He's best known for his time playing for Rangers, where he won 7 trophies. His party lifestyle made him a colourful and controversial character. His battles with alcohol cost him his place in the Netherlands international team. It also had a detrimental effect on his club career. In July 2006, Ricksen faced the cameras at Heathrow Airport. He'd been sent home in disgrace after a drunken row with a passenger on a flight to South Africa. The new manager of Rangers, Paul Le Guen, decided that Ricksen's time was up.
I think it got blown out of proportion, if I'm being quite honest. I think we flew from Glasgow to Amsterdam or somewhere. I think it was Amsterdam. And then we were waiting in the airport for a number of hours, and then obviously flying to South Africa. The guys had asked, obviously myself, being captain, we're allowed to have a few drinks, a few beers just to chill out. And I'm not talking about going and sitting in the bar and getting absolute legless. I'm talking about having a few bottles of beer, a few glasses of wine, and that's what we were allowed. And Fernando obviously had a few extra.
There was, 20 of us in the trip, or 21, whatever, and we were all paired up with a teammate. And if there's one person that you don't want to be sitting next to somebody from the public, it's Fernando Ricksen.
I know, sometimes you need to laugh because it was crazy, but there was a woman, I think, he was sitting beside, wasn't happy. And obviously, she's travelling, paying a lot of money in business class. And Fernando was obviously upsetting her. We've been typical Fernando. You know what I mean? Like, getting agitated because he's up and down, sitting, moving, getting something out, getting his bag out, putting his bag back in, jumping across the women, sitting down, spilling a drink, all these things.
I just went to the toilet, and when I came back, the plane was on fire, and Le Guen came to me, go and speak with your friend, because you need to calm down. And I went to Fernando and tried to calm down, but he turned on me, and yeah, it was quite a fight.
From the moment Mr. Pollockman came, me and him were we are different types. And that's why it didn't so from the beginning, you feel that as a player, that I'm running around naked and the plane doesn't have it.
If it had been managed properly, there was obviously still alcohol in his system. Could you have just took him back and maybe let him sober up? Could you have took him back to our hotel, let him sober up and sit down and speak, and maybe if you could have found out what was going on in his life and what was the problems in his life, and then have dealt with it, rather than just dismissing somebody and saying, well, you're guilty, go.
Yeah, maybe another coach would not send him back and try to speak with him, but maybe Paul Le Guen just arrived, and maybe he will want to make an example for the rest of the group to strengthen his politics.
That made me angry. It did. I just felt Obviously, I respect Gwen's that he wasn't happy with him. I wasn't happy with him. Us his teammates, who was his friends, weren't happy with him. But I still think there's a way of dealing with it.
If I'd been there because I knew the players well, I would have done it differently.
For me, at the moment, I didn't want to leave the club, but I knew I could not work with Mr. Ricksen. He is a really good coach, but not for me.
Ricksen was rescued from Glasgow by Zenit St Petersburg, reuniting him with Dick Advocat. In a bizarre twist of fate, Ricksen won a UEFA Cup winners' medal when the Russians beat Rangers in the final in 2008. He'd later wind up his career with his first club, Fortuna, in Holland. Since 2013, he's been living with MND, or ALS, a wasting disease which gets progressively worse. Medics noticed the problem when he felt unable to play in Mark van Bommel's farewell match at Fortuna Sittard.
He came in the locker room, in the dressing room, and he couldn't play. And there was something different about his jaws. And he couldn't speak well, and he was the muscles were moving a little bit different than normally. And the doctor recognized something, and he went from in the medical from doctor to doctor, and then the diagnosis was ALS.
And they said, I couldn't believe it. I think they make a mistake, and maybe they took somebody else this year. So in the beginning I was thinking, oh, they make mistakes, it's not possible. But after 1 month of all tests, yeah, then you know what you have. And so after that, you get a period of not accepting it, which was really difficult. But now I accept what I have, and I see every day in life a challenge, and try to live with it.
He can do nothing anymore. He has a friend. He helps him with the clothes, eating. He cannot do. It's very difficult from the kitchen to the living room with a plate. Try it.
Football is a habit of looking after its own. Since his diagnosis, Rangers fans have been holding regular fundraising events for their stricken hero to help cover some of his medical expenses.
How does it feel for you this evening? Amazing, yeah.
Whilst visiting Glasgow, a trip to the tattoo parlour. His star sign is Leo. There is something of the lion about Ricksen.
I love the feeling. It makes me feel alive. You understand? When I do it, the pain makes me feel alive, and it feels good.
A return to the famous marble staircase at Ibrox for a gala dinner in his honour. An emotional reunion with some former Rangers teammates. Football has put its arm around Ricksen.
And everybody that's here, put their hands together. Fernando Ricksen.
The collective support he's received from officials, teammates and fans at his former clubs has been a source of strength and encouragement for Ricksen in what is a very individual battle.
What he do for me is really nice, and I'm really grateful that he wants to do that for me.
In January, Fortuna Sittard fans travelled to Glasgow sporting their camouflage strips to visit the man they nicknamed Fernando the Commando. The occasion was the Fernando Ricksen benefit game. Former teammates travelled from around the world to play. The team bus was packed with international names. When it arrived at Ibrox, there was no doubting who was the star attraction.
nice to see you.
Oh,
It's cold
yeah.
today.
I know.
Very,
but
very
not
cold.
bad, oh, no. Oh, who's so serious?
It's my pleasure.
Oh, happy you.
No problem. A little angel for you. Let's put it inside.
Oh.
Give you some strength. Keep you happy.
That's okay.
That's the first time I've seen him in a long time, today, and it choked us a wee bit. It's no nice when you don't see him for a length of time. You do get a bit of shock. I'm not scared at the minute. I'm man enough to say when I seen him today, before I done some stuff, I kind of had to turn my back and walk away. It's no nice.
Why?
Just a young age, you know what I mean? I know, listen, he's a kind of guy. I know what he's like because I've known him long enough. You know when you feel sorry for him, and that's what I didn't want to do.
I heard him going down the corridor and someone says, oh, is that Fernando now? And I said, oh, is Fernando down there? I said, I'll go down and see him. And I heard him sort of speaking, and I was sort of taken a little bit aback by it. And when I saw him, I gave him a big hug. And one of the things that I did, I started speaking almost like in broken English to him. And it was maybe just down to not understanding the illness. Fernando's English is perfect. I know that.
Outside, fantastic. Big game again.
I know upstairs he's still as sharp as a tack. I can see it in his eyes. He's still piercing through his understanding. And I was annoyed and a little bit angry actually that I spoke to him like that, because I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know if Fernando's thinking, why is he talking to me slow here? Why is he speaking so slowly?
Today we are here for Fernando, and 40-odd thousand Rangers fans. It's a magnificent gesture by the fans.
The stars are all turned up, past and present, to show support for Fernando and his family and what he's trying to do.
Guys have got respect for him, and it shows you what kind of impact he had on people.
When he fell over and he got himself up, I just encapsulates the man in terms of gives everything, no matter what. No matter how he did, no matter how he started his Rangers career, he got back up and went again and gave everything.
Over 40,000 paid into Ibrox. It was the second biggest crowd in the UK that weekend. Terry Sheringham made the fans smile, and Nacho Novo made Fernando laugh. There were more hits than misses that day as football rallied around Ricksen and his family. At a club that has itself suffered in recent years, this was a day to cherish its heritage and one man's part in it.
You look across and you see the former colleagues and you all see them looking a little bit like that, or some even wipe their tears. I mean, that tells you a bit about, it's just unfair.
for Fernando is terrific that so many people are here from the club. So for me it was very emotional. Yeah.
You see physical, mental, it's going down, costs him a lot of energy, and then it's very emotional.
To see him suffer like this is terrible. And you see it in his eyes. That's the most difficult thing for me as brother to see.
I'm positive I'm going to live a very long time.
It's a different breed, Fernando. There's no many guys going about with it.
Somebody like 90 years will not be the same life what Fernando has done.
From the first day till the last, I had so much fun.
I would want to live in Fernando's. I like crazy people. I quite like that in somebody. It's got a bit of craziness in them. I don't think it does you any harm.
But at the moment I'm more happy than when I play.
Enjoy Sky Sports Live. On all screens, on the go,